Hey folks, it's Blamo. It's Jeremy Kirkland. How you doing? It's another week. It's still hot out, right? What is this? What is this crap? Hang in there. The temps will be dropping soon. Hopefully you're dry. I mean, geez, if any of you were in the path of the hurricane, man, my heart goes out to you. I hope you're getting some support and help. Give your boy a shout. A lot of stuff happening this week. We got a solo pod going out this week. Bunch of fall vibes slowly trickling out. It's all coming. In other news, there's just so many things I always want to catch you up on every time we get together. Y'all were super active in the Slack this week. For folks who don't know, if you're on the Blam Fam or the Patreon, we have a Slack group where a lot of people chat about stuff with each other, and it's where there's the Die Workwear podcast. But I'm not trying to do an ad even on my own show here, but everyone was chatting about their 5 most worn and into shoes, and it like their 5 favorite pieces of footwear, whatever you want to call them, right? But it got me thinking, because I shared mine, but I was thinking more about like the stuff I own and when I get super into things, and I have these like different chapters of my life. I don't know if this is with you too, but I have these different chapters of my life where I just get super like into something. I spent all weekend obsessively researching this one brand, just like getting really into it. Fun thing is, I barely even own anything from this brand, but I was reading articles, and then I found a book about this brand that was written in Italian, and I used my phone and I took pictures and translated it through Google so I could read it. I mean, this is how crazy I am, just so I could read this book, and I was like, what is wrong with me? I mean, I just get into stuff. I'm like, man, I'm glad I avoided drugs, but I just love to throw myself into something head first. And I have this kind of messed up thing in my head where I say, well, like, if you're going to learn about it, you might as well learn as much as you can. I mean, what the hell is wrong with me? I mean, it's just, you got to slow down. If this is you, I'm glad you're here. You're listening. You're in the right place. If you're new here, we just, everyone here, we just like to get into stuff for no good reason. But one thing I've been doing lately is I like to sit on my chair at night and I just look at books. I put a record on. This sounds really lame, but this is actually, I realize the amount of times I just sit and watch something mindless every night. Like I was in a habit where, the kids are in bed or whatever, and I just go downstairs and I'm like playing a game, or I'm watching, I'm trying to watch some Criterion movie that I think is going to, enlighten me. And now I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to grab a book. I'm going to read. Wow, who would have thought? But, I also look at a lot of like picture books, like just images, and a few books that I come back to time and time again, which these are getting harder to find. So Phil, if you're listening to this, let's get that reprint up. But they're books from my guest this week, artist Phil Toledano. You're probably like, wait, isn't that the dude who's telling people about like geezer watches, or is he the guy that made that Toledano and Chan thing, or is he the guy that did like the Viva Bastardo, like the car podcast? I mean, he's actually all of those things, and we get into it. We get deep into it. The geezer, his words, not mine, legend himself, Phil joins me to chat this week. We chat about his early career, how he ended up designing watches, photography, and AI art. Oh, there's some deep stuff there, so go easy on the DMs and the replies, and we just trade the usual hot takes. But this was a pod that was honestly like years in the making, because we'd go back and forth, and we'd be like, oh, you should come on. He'd be like, oh, do you even want me to come on? I'm like, yeah, I want you to come on. And then he's like, all right, and I message him, then I don't hear from him, and then he messages me, and then I'm an idiot and I forget to respond back. But here's the thing, the stars aligned, we did it. Phil Toledano's here, and I'm glad you're here too. Let's go.
Isn't that when you're having a stroke?
Yeah.
Isn't that what happens when you have a stroke? You smell toast?
You do smell burnt toast, but have you ever seen Mission Impossible 1?
Yeah, a long time ago.
So Tom Cruise checks his mic on his little wristband and he says toast.
Oh, he goes like this?
Yeah.
Toast.
And it's been my mic check since I used to be in a band. I would always say toast. I thought it was always clever and quirky, and it's a friend of mine was like, no, he's like, there's enough like enunciation on it when you have S's, hisses, and plosives and things like that. You can basically try to push a mic a little bit to see if. Did you
casually throw out plosive?
Yeah.
As one does at 10 a.m.
Yeah. It's
Kirkland, I've always admired your plosives, if I may be so bold.
this is
You have resplendent plosive.
this is me alone on my plosive island. Yeah, but we
I
did it.
honestly, yeah, it's impressive because I can't. I'm realizing I think there's a threshold. It seems maybe it's just for me, but there's an age threshold where suddenly everything seems incomprehensible, technologically speaking.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
go
you know
on.
how when you're a kid, and I mean, and you have the flashing, maybe the flashing 12 on the VCR. This is a super geezer reference,
Yeah.
and like your parents would just leave it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what happens. You get to the. There needs to be a word like plosive, which is that threshold that you pass when it's just suddenly incomprehensible.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm getting there. There are certain things too. I think what you're hinting at is there's stuff where maybe it's like with age and wisdom comes a level where you realize your time is so valuable that there are certain things that aren't worth your time anymore. And one of those is setting a VCR.
What you mean is that your time is running out.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm like that with my oven. My oven upstairs,
Ah.
it's like, 3:39 in the morning because anytime we've had power issues with our home, I'm like, eh.
There's other things to fix rather than the oven light. The
Yeah,
timer.
you're just like,
Yeah.
who cares?
It's true. It's true.
So I don't know. Maybe that's a new level of. But here's the thing. I like getting older. I'm starting to embrace.
How old are you?
I'm almost 40. So
Okay, just so you know. Like getting older, like when you're 40, 45, 46 is all entertaining. And then post 50 is just shit. Like the only people who say age is a number is old people.
Really?
No one who's 25 goes, yeah, age is just a number. Yeah.
That's true. Do you ever look back though and you look at, how cocky you were, at least for me? Like I really thought I knew what I was doing in my 20s. And I look back at it now and all I do is like wince and pain. Like we have this Google Home that shows photos of us, in our 20s and stuff. And I'm like, what the fuck was I doing? I'm such an idiot.
No, it's great. I would happily exchange the sheer ignorance of youth for the painful awareness of old age.
Yeah, it's true.
Absolutely. Because you just blunder around, like you just do shit. You just, I remember I got a job, my first job in New York, I was in advertising and I'd wear like suits with like braces and cufflinks and tie pins and I'd walk around and I'd be like,
wow.
and I'd be like, yeah. And I would just go and see like the head geezer, be like, yeah, I've got this idea. What do you think? And he was like, who the fuck are you?
He's like, wait, do you work here?
Yeah, basically. But I was like, yeah, but I'm 24. I know everything. You don't understand.
Yeah. Wait, did you move here in your early 20s in New York?
Yeah, 23, I think.
Okay. So you've logged some time in the Big Apple.
Oh, I'm so glad you say the Big Apple, man, because it's my secret fetish. This is my secret kink. Like did we talk about this? Like, I really enjoy, and I recommend it to anyone. When you meet people from San Francisco, you just say, you say, so you're from Frisco. And you have to
feel like that's cool. That's not a pejorative.
No. It is. It enrages people from San Francisco. Like you go, oh, Frisco, I love Frisco. And then you see them, and there's a struggle between wanting to bludgeon you and then wanting to be polite.
So this is where you tell me that you loathe people referring to New York as the Big Apple.
No, I like it because it's like subversive. It's like the other one is Chicago. Like, oh, the Windy City.
Oh yeah, Windy City is such a that's so lame. Yeah, I hear
exactly, which is why it's so great.
Yeah, people do ask me about being from St. Louis. Like, you're from the Lou, and I'm like, dude, shut up.
Oh, I didn't know that existed.
Well, if you ever listened to Nelly, who was this rapper in the 90s who was from St. Louis, he would always say, I'm from the Lou and I'm proud. And like, that's like, he can say that because he's cool and he's a rapper, but I'm just a clown. And when I say I'm from the Lou, someone's like, oh, all right,
I'm going to have to incorporate that, fold that into my array of like annoying city names.
Oh, yeah. It's up there.
Yeah. Oh, and then there's Beantown.
Oh, for Boston.
Yeah.
I feel like that's there's a lot of grace from people from Boston, though.
Yeah. Beantown, I feel like, is okay.
Yeah. So you came to New York in your 20s.
Yeah, I came in my early 20s. I was living in Paris, and my cousin, and I was trying to be a fashion photographer, and I was doing very bad. I was terrible. Talk about cringing. When I look back at that stuff, I'm like, holy shit, that was bad work.
Oh yeah? Were you like, just put a wig on it?
It was an early version of a Beyonce song. I don't know.
Oh.
No, I just wasn't very good. Like, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was kind of nervous, especially around these really, beautiful women. I was just like, yeah. And then whatever that noise is. And then my my cousin said you should move to New York and get into advertising. I was like, oh, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, big money.
Yeah, that's right. And I moved to New York and got into advertising.
And here you are.
Here I am. Yeah, here I'm 50 years later in my 70s.
Yeah, but you got the wisdom. You got the wisdom and all the experience, right? Because how long were you in advertising? You were in advertising for
I think like 12 years.
Yeah, I like this because I think the great unknown of Phil Toledano is that you've had various careers that
Right.
more or less, in hindsight, were all lily pads out to like who you are now.
That's exactly right, man. I mean, look, here's the thing about advertising is I think that I was pretty good at ideas, but I wasn't very good at negotiating the kind of labyrinthine path to get those ideas to survive. I found, if I look back honestly, like there's a lot of things I thought were pretty good, but I don't think a lot of other people thought were pretty good. And I think that it's like when you watch an amazing movie, I'm always amazed that the movie survived the process of birthing. And advertising is the same thing. There is a long birthing process that has to go through so many different hands. And I don't think I was very good. I'm much better when I'm on my own, birthing it myself, than I am shepherding it through a system. But you're absolutely right about the lily pad thing, man. I mean, I never went to art school, so advertising taught me everything. It gave me everything. I learned about film, editing, music, typography, design. But most importantly, the thing that it taught me was brutality.
Oh, okay.
Like the idea that I had to be utterly brutal with my own ideas. The idea that I could have a lot of ideas I could generate. I've always been very good with ideas. I could generate like 15 ideas, and I could realize in pretty short order, okay, 14 of those are complete shit. And maybe one is okay. And then the skill to kind of whittle down that idea to something to sharpen it so it got to like a very focused point. That was the best thing that advertising gave me as an artist. And there's everything else, like the idea of having a lot of ideas, being able to discard them, being able to not hold on to them, not kind of like, I think a lot of people who are not familiar with ideas, you'll often hold on to ideas. You'll cradle them because they're yours. And you'll defend them when they're not defensible.
Yeah, I mean, a friend of mine, he's a CD, and he worked at a few different firms, and he told me that the hardest thing of any job is, he's like, you can learn how to tell stories. He's like, you can learn how to, and he just kind of like has this long rant of like all these things that you can more or less educate yourself on. He's like, but what you have to, he's like, the hardest part is navigating egos, because he's like, there's so many people in the room, and there's so many different people to please, and you have to, he's like a really, good like creative director is the person who can make the client feel like it was their idea, even though it never was.
Sure. Yeah, and I was terrible at that stuff. Like, I was always really bad at sort of hiding my disdain for bad suggestions and stuff like that. Like, inevitably, when I worked at big agencies, inevitably there would be like a chill would drift across my career, and I would know that the firing was oncoming. But when I worked at small, really creative shops, it was always fine. But the bigger agencies, I was just terrible at negotiating, like the politics. I was just terrible at that stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, you've you created quite a successful career for yourself. I mean, despite your own inadequacies, you're saying
my handicaps. Yeah, I mean, look, I was much better off when I left to be a photographer and an artist. I was much better off because it was just me, and I didn't have to. I could just sell myself, I suppose, and I could sell my ideas. I didn't have to worry about other people, and so I found that much easier somehow.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, were you your harshest critic?
I think always that my harshest critic. I mean, if you're not your harshest critic, who else is going to be? Do you know what I mean? It has to start with you.
Oof, I don't know.
Don't you think? Like, if you have an idea, like you have to really look at, like, you have to examine that and really, because look, the thing about being an artist is I've had like 20 years or so of experiencing people looking at things, no matter what it is, like it's a watch design, a piece of art, whatever, and going, oh yeah, that's great. Mm-hmm. And I know that doesn't mean that's great.
Yeah. Okay. That is a throwaway term where, or that I think this is one that always is like a death rattle when someone says that's interesting.
Oh, for sure.
I'm like,
well, also the higher the voice, the bigger the bullshit. When people go, yeah, that's great, then you know it's utter shit. But what I mean is that most people, when you show them something that you've made, feel an obligation to be nice to you, mm-hmm. which is why you have to be your harshest critic.
Mm. Okay, that's fair. I'll buy. Like
You'll take
I'm in.
that.
No, I mean, and I think for me, and this is like my perspective that I've also wrestled with is like, yes, I would say that I am my harshest critic, but I also prevent myself from progress all the time because I'm so terrified of things not being perfect that I won't ever finish it or I won't ever like release it, you know?
Right.
Which is, I mean, that's probably a whole other discussion into which, you know, I don't, maybe it's like what is it that, perfection is the enemy of progress or something like that.
Right.
Like that's my thing that I wrestle with. But I do feel like you need to have a good bullshit tolerance and to find out whether or not like something is worth showing to the world. I mean, look, there's a lot of things. One of the greatest curses of the invention of GarageBand is you got a lot of people making music that maybe never should have, you
Right.
know, because it's
I, th-
so easy.
I think momentum is the key. You have to
Okay.
be always falling down the hill.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Because I think the problem is that like you get everyone has it's easy to have ideas. The problem is starting them, finishing them. But if you keep getting into this, there was a period of my life when I was putting out like one or two books a year. I do a new website for each project, two or three projects. I mean, I was just and people would make fun of me for it. But that momentum kept pushing me forward. And I think that if you
Oh,
keep I think that it's like everything in life. I guess the only thing I've learned is that habit is and muscle memory is everything.
yeah.
So if you get into the habit of momentum, if you acquire the muscle memory of idea generation, then you keep making, you keep producing. And yeah, some of those things will be shit, but with any luck, some will be okay.
Fair. Well, I mean, let's jump into some of the photography stuff because I think you were shooting. You didn't just like leave your agency and start shooting for National Geographic, did you? Like, where
Right
did
off the
that come
bat, man.
from? Yeah.
Right off the bat. They called me up. They were like, we don't really know you. We've heard your name floating around.
Here you go. Take a picture of a satellite. See you
Yeah, if
around.
you could. Yeah. What about this? Well, I've been taking pictures since I was like 11, actually. I found, when I was a kid, I had to put my parents, I used to have what used to call when I was a kid crazes. I would be obsessed with like a thing and I'd be
Hmm.
like, oh, I love this thing more than life. You ever read Wind in the Willows?
Yes.
Remember Toad? He gets like he goes caravanning and then there's boats. Like I was like Toad of Toad Hall. So I would be into these things. And, I remember I really wanted like this device that could do hand tooling because I was like, yeah, I'm going to hand tool belts and cups and glasses. It's going to be amazing. And my parents were like, yeah, okay. We'll wait till next week. So I was really into photography. I started reading all these books, and then my parents were like, well, yeah, okay, how serious are you? So they said, you have to do a presentation for us.
Oh.
So I made this, and I found the booklet. I made this little presentation I had to present to my parents, like about photography and what it could do with it, and like the technical aspects. And then they took me to. I bought a secondhand camera. Well, they bought me a second camera for £50, and so I've been taking pictures since I was 11. So yeah, when I was in advertising, I was always shooting pictures, and then eventually, when I was I think 35, I was like, "Fuck it, I'm tired of listening to myself moan about wanting to be a photographer. I'm not married. I haven't got kids. I can always come back to advertising if it fails."
Right. And so you go and you start shooting, and how did that process go?
Well, I gave myself 3 months to put together a portfolio because until that time, all I had shot really for like 20 years was black and white abstract pictures of architecture.
Okay, cool.
And I was like, oh, that's not a huge, that's not going to be hugely lucrative in the advertising market.
Sure.
Because I was like, okay, I'll shoot advertising and magazine stuff. So then I actually shot it was the beginning of ideas. Like I had this idea that I would shoot people's faces while they were playing video games. So I did this series of people's
Like the
faces. While they were
glow
playing,
of a screen,
yeah,
is that?
but
Oh,
yeah, but
cool.
their faces illuminated by the TV, but then their reactions, and it was actually turned out to be an amazing. I was one of the first people to do that. So I shot that, and then I started shooting. I was really interested in like office life, like cubicle life, and the kind of beautiful abstractness of that, of how those images could look. So when I was in an office, when I was still working in advertising, I would shoot people in the offices. So I put together this portfolio, and I got an agent. And then the first editorial job I got was from the video game series. It was for the New York Times magazine. I went to see them on a Friday, called me on a Monday, and then I totally shat myself. I was like, holy shit, this is terrifying. I was terrified. And they wanted me to shoot a stockbroker as though he was looking at the screen of his computer, making expressions. So I went up there, and first of all, like I totally panicked. I was like, I forgot half my gear. I had to go back home and get it, bring it back. And then the guy was so like, I was asking a guy to make faces who just, he didn't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I shot the images, and I thought they were kind of disastrous, and I don't think they used them because they were kind of shit. And I thought, okay, that's it, my career's over.
Oh man, you are hard on yourself.
Well, because it was like the gods giving me this gift, the New York Times Magazine, which is the grail if you're a photographer, if you want
Yeah,
to
yeah,
shoot
yeah.
editorial. And then I kind of screwed it up. I couldn't get this guy to make the face. They wanted like the crazy face from the video game stuff, but this was like a stockbroker who was not interested in doing that. I
Yeah.
couldn't get him to do it. So I was like, okay, I'm doomed. But anyway, it worked out okay after that.
Wait a second. I got to get my bids in on the Bezel app, but more on that in a minute. I get all sorts of emails and questions from you all, which I love to read and respond. And one thing I constantly get, and even read in the Blamo Slack, is what watch should I buy and where should I get it? It's a wild world out there with all sorts of websites and shops, but I go to Bezel. Bezel is the trusted marketplace for buying and selling your next luxury watch with expert in-house authentication on every purchase. First off, folks, it's getbezel.com. That's getbezel.com. But I use and recommend Bezel because it's the best of both worlds. You can go to the site and browse a marketplace of luxury watches, over 16,000 of them, by the way, which is a lot. And I know that Bezel is going to authenticate your purchase. Or you can create an account and get connected with your own private client advisor, called the concierge. Because look, making a watch purchase can be confusing, especially when you don't know all the reference numbers. When was this made? Did they use ceramic then? Is it a triple lop, dingle dop? What the heck? I don't even know. But they do at Bezel, and they're here to help. Concierge, baby. Look, if looking for your watch to mark a special occasion, or maybe you're just doing research, right? They even have their own journal where you can learn all the ins and outs about Bezel and the brands and all the stuff that's happening right now. But back to my bids. Yes, Bezel now has auctions, and not just any auctions. They got Rolex, they got Cartier, they got Audemars Piguet, all the big dogs and more. So you can discover, bid, and know the Bezel team has got your back with verified in-house authentication. So visit getbezel.com on your smartphone or computer. Bezel, the trusted marketplace for buying or selling your next luxury watch. Yeah, I mean, because I think eventually, and this is where I had first saw your stuff, is you end up shooting, like, you're shooting National Geographic, like, which, that's a huge, huge thing.
Well, actually, I mean, yeah, I had a period when I was shooting for every magazine. I had New York magazine covers almost every week, Esquire, GQ, Vanity Fair, New York Times, New Yorker, Atlanta. I mean, everyone I was shooting, and it was an amazingly fertile period. And what I was doing for most of those people, they would have stories, and they'd say, okay, we've got this story idea. Think up some pictures to illustrate. It was like conceptual photography. So it was like being in advertising. It's like being an art director again, but for magazines. And then National Geographic, that happened, which was cool.
Yeah,
that was my dream job, man. That was my dream. They sent me to Kazakhstan to shoot the return of the Soyuz capsule.
Fuck, that's so crazy.
It was the whole experience the whole thing was crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, and with all the stuff that you're shooting, obviously, like it. I think from what I'm understanding, like you didn't just have like the exact brief of, say, like what it was at the New York Times magazine, where it's like, look, this is the exact thing we need you to shoot. I mean, it looks like you kind of turned into your own agency at the time. Like you were saying, like you're art directing your shoots, you're conceptualizing, were there times where they're like, hey, we have this idea of this sort of cover, and you're like, no, I'm going to change this and deliver that, and it keeps working?
I mean, it's interesting because you're right. Conceptual photography is quite a binary proposition because it's either really good or it's totally shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's often not so great. But after a while, I kind of got a reputation for doing reasonable stuff. So 99% of the time, people would ask me just to think of something. Every now and then, and yeah, sometimes there were instances where they'd say, we have this idea. I go, okay, I will do that, but I'll also do this thing.
Yeah.
And then, we can see which one is better. But it got to a point where people would just believe. At the beginning, I always had to I had to do these sketches sometimes, and my drawing is so laughable. Like it's like a child who's having a seizure. Like that's what my sketches look like. And so I would send them over, and then they just start laughing. And so it became this joke. Like they were art directors and photo editors who would collect my sketches because they were so shit. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, I've got 5 of these at home." I print them out because they're so shit. They were hilarious. Like it was just anyway. but it got to the point where I guess that I had done enough stuff that people kind of were like, okay, he sort of knows what he's doing. But it was really enjoyable. And often I would be making we'd be making these really peculiar sets, or we'd design these amazing costumes or just amazing stuff. I worked with the most incredible people who kind of made my half-witted sketches into incredible things.
Yeah. When did the book and the idea of the stuff start happening with your dad?
Well, I realized pretty early on when I sort of transitioned into being a photographer that actually I just wanted to be an artist. And so I started working very soon on my own ideas. I realized I have this peculiar way of making decisions where I kind of imagine myself in the future looking back.
Mm.
So when I was deciding whether to leave advertising, I sort of looked ahead, and I was 35, and I sort of I knew exactly where I'd be at 45. I'd be a creative director somewhere making like 400 or 500 grand a year, and I'd probably have the Porsche and the bloody, the house in the Hamptons. Like I saw all of it unfolding.
Yeah.
And I thought that's not really what I wanted. I thought, would I be proud of that? And I thought, no. So when I started shooting photography, I realized I don't want to be 45 and be an editorial photographer. I'd like to be 45 and an artist with books and shows and all that stuff. And I'd like to be making work that matters to me and to other people. So the first book I did was a book called Bankrupt, which was photographs of bankrupt offices and things that people left behind. It was during the dot-com collapse. It was like economic archaeology.
Yeah.
So then I did that. Then I did that book. And when I did that book, I was like, right, that's it. It was the opposite of the New York Times experience. I was like, right, that's it. I've got a book with a super well-known publisher. I'm going to be famous. and then nothing happened. Yeah. And then nothing happened. So I was like, okay, maybe it needs some more time.
Yeah.
So then I did a book called Phone Sex with the same publisher, which was portraits of phone sex operators and interviews with them about what they did. Because I was really interested in this idea that it's this archaic technology. I was thinking about it like you see pictures of like steam trains in the 50s. Like it's just things that won't exist after a while. And then my mum died really suddenly in 2006. And I found myself taking care of my dad, who had dementia, which I didn't know. I guess I just needed, I was, as an only child, I was married. I am married, but I was married at the time, but I didn't really have I had no family to talk about. I mean, I had no brothers or sisters. I was basically taking care of my father more or less alone. I mean, Carla would help me out when she could. And I felt that it was I was trying to figure out a way just to make sense of this thing I was experiencing. And it was incredibly painful. In large part because my dad had no short-term memory. So he kept forgetting that. He kept asking me where my mum was at the beginning, and I kept telling him she had died. And every time I tell him that, it was like he was learning it afresh. And that was it was excruciating for me and for him. So I invented this lie that my mum was in Paris taking care of her sick brother. And we lived within this lie for 3 years. And I guess I started taking pictures of our life together and writing about it.
Why'd you start taking pictures?
Why? I don't know. I guess I felt like I just wanted to remember this time. I felt like it was a gift in a way, even though it was so incredibly painful. It was just, and I knew that I guess, the thing about parents is you always think that they're forever. And then I think we spoke about this. And then when one of them dies, it's so improbable and also so strangely ludicrous, like that you can't imagine them not being there when they're suddenly not there. I guess I realized that my dad was going to go and I just wanted to remember what we had left. And so I wrote this stuff and started taking pictures of our life. And I remember very clearly thinking to myself, God, who's going to be interested in this? Because, well, why would anyone? It's just everyone's, every artist, so many photographers have done this. And this is such a normal experience in some way. And I wrote about it. I put it I made a website and I put the work up on the website. And then the most peculiar thing happened. I started getting dozens of emails a day and then hundreds of emails a week from people all over the world. And it was the most beautiful experience because people would say, I haven't spoken to my dad in years. I'm going to talk to him again. Or they'd say, I'm going to try and spend more time with my grandparents. I mean, it makes me really emotional because you don't often get to do things that are good in life. And I remember when I was a kid, I used to talk to my dad about making art, and because he was an artist, and I would say to him, he'd say, what do you want to do? And I would say, oh, I'd love to be an artist. And he'd say, what kind of art? And I would say, I'd like to make something that changes people's minds or makes them see something. And I did that with this work
Yeah.
about my father, totally unintentionally. Like I didn't mean to do it. I didn't know what I was doing, but it happened. And it really changed the course of my art for a long time, like what I made, because I started making things about myself and my life. And I guess I always say, like, if I shuffle off tomorrow, I've done I've done two good things, three good things. I've married Carla, had Lulu, and I made this book.
Yeah. I mean,
So
my interaction with that book, especially as during a time where, I lost my dad in May, but it was like a very some people say it's ambiguous grief or continuous grief, but like when you are processing a person's life and it feels like they're gone, but they're still there, and new things start to fade away every day. It's a different level of grief. I don't think it's
yeah,
better or worse, but it's just different because, it's this, like, you're waking up and you're like, what is the thing that's going to fade away today? What is the thing that I had yesterday that I'm not going to have today? And I think the worst part of any sort of loss in family is, one, this sort of hindsight where you're like, oh man, I wish I would have cherished that more. I wish I would have experienced that more. I didn't get to, damn it. Like, a friend of mine talks about how he fights with his dad. And I'm like, dude, I would kill to get into a fight with my dad right now. I would
right.
love the pain of an argument. But the
Yeah,
other thing is when you're experiencing this stuff, you feel that not a single person in the world can understand what you're dealing with.
it's
And
so true.
maybe you're right, like one minute out of the day. But when you start to see, especially with like the Days with My Father book you did, that you're kind of not alone in any of it. And in fact, like, this is an unfortunate natural thing with life. And like when you can grieve with someone anonymously and publicly, it's the greatest feeling you can have in that pain because there's hope. And I think the introduction of hope with grief is so powerful. And reading that book and looking through those pictures and stuff, like, really hit me because I was like, fuck, man, like, my dad's gone. He was this great person. All these people had these memories of him. And I fucked off and moved to New York when I was, a kid. And I missed all of this time. And I took for granted all these times I could have spent with him. And I had this, like, just, pain of that, like, I did the wrong thing. Like, I should have stayed there with him. And seeing the stuff that you talk about, and also the most important thing, which you hint on in private conversations and public stuff, it's like, dude, your dad was super proud of you,
Right.
and like, what a great feeling that, like, it is unfortunate that he's gone, but to know that when he was here, he got to see and experience your success.
Sure.
And I'm sure as a parent, it's the greatest feeling to watch your kid find joy. And so you get,
Yeah.
he received that same feeling you feel with your daughter and stuff. And so it's such a healing book that, I mean, I'm not belittling any work you've ever done, but I think it's the greatest. I mean, it's your opus,
I don't look. I mean, it's funny, man. But I don't disagree. It's funny because I think that as an artist, I'm a conceptual artist, right? So
Yeah.
I'm really interested in politics and sociology and the world we live in, all this kind of stuff. And I think that often photographers, especially, are always running around trying to, like, oh, I found like this group of people who live in the hills who have like 3 years. I'm going to document this, and it's going to
Yeah.
be fascinating. And it is. But the thing that people are really interested in is who we are, our families, how we love our children. Like, that's the stuff those are the things that really move people, because, the 3-eared people who live in the hills is an interesting intellectual pursuit, but it's not emotion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, and it's funny. I mean, like, so much of my work is so intellectual, but I went through a period after Days of My Father when and Carla, she wrote. I was just basically just talking about myself. I think I did like 5 projects, it's just about Phil, and because I just suddenly realized, and this is no revelation, but it was for me, like, how useful art is to figure out shit about yourself. So
Yeah.
I did Kim Jong Phil. I did, which is crazy. I did The Reluctant Father. I
Hmm.
did Maybe, which is really very personal. And I mean, I'm sure there's one in me about aging somehow. I have to figure out how to do it, but
You're
about
in it right
being
now.
old.
You're doing it
Yeah.
with the
I
watches
know.
and the geezer. I mean, you're
Well,
wearing a
like,
shirt, embracing your age.
I know, but I don't think it's quite the same emotional impact as Days with My Father.
Yeah, fair.
I'm not sure if a Giza hoodie carries quite the same weight.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that the other thing is I hope that you don't feel this desire to improve yourself. I think one of the curses of, first world capitalism, whatever it is like this constant refinement and improvement for the sake of bettering yourself. And I think sometimes like being able to sit with what you've created, but to just sit and exist, I think is really cool. It's very healing.
I feel like that's the death sentence as an artist. I think if you make stuff, if you really want to make amazing stuff, I feel like a curse in the best possible way is to always be dissatisfied. It always to be thinking like the thing I'm doing now is the best thing I've ever done. Although I mean, like you say, like it's hard. Days of My Father it's hard to beat that for so many reasons. I was joking with Carl. I was like, "Oh, I have to do something personal again. I feel like maybe our dog should have an unexpected death, and I could just do a book about that, the sudden death of the dog."
Sure.
But sure, Phil. Yeah, I mean, you have to be dissatisfied because if you're happy with where you are, I feel like you're not stretching anymore.
That's really interesting. I think you're probably right.
Of course, right. Don't be ridiculous, Kirkland.
Well, but I do think one of the things you've done, and we can kind of jump to real quick, is this AI photography you've been doing, which is really,
don't call it photography, man. People can get very upset.
Right. Well, I mean, and I think, I also set you up so you can explain the tools of what you're using. While I would argue it still is photography. It still is an image in the experience of an image, Well,
it looks like photography, but photographers get very upset. And I would argue look, technically speaking, it's not photography because it doesn't, there's no light involved. There's no it's not the same it's actually more like writing or poetry in a way or filmmaking than is photography, I think.
Okay.
I find it amazing, man. I had the first AI book came out over the summer. Last May. And then there's another one coming out in October.
Hey.
Yeah. Hey.
Here we go.
So, well, look, the thing going back to that thing about me being a conceptual artist, the idea determines the execution, right? And so the idea also determines the tool you use. So I've been really interested for the last 3 or 4 years in conspiracy theories in America and how America in particular is so prone to believing fantasy or conspiracy theory. And I think in part, I guess it's because, we started, the basis for America was a distrust of a foreign government, right?
Yeah, fair.
It was distrust. The basis of America was distrust. And so that's kind of genetically coded into Americans, this idea that we shouldn't believe what we're told, that we should question and then the ultimate articulation of that is QAnon and all the rest of it. Like that's the final boss of the American distrust gene project. You know what I mean? So yeah. I was working for a long time on on conspiracy theory stuff. So I guess that I'm really fascinated with what AI means in terms of our relationship to image, because the presence of AI means that now everything is true and nothing is true. And so that's fundamentally changed our relationship with images as we see them. Like we lived for about 150 years or so with the idea that first photography was kind of true, right? You see a picture, that's what happened, more or less. And now you see an image and it might be entirely invented.
Yeah, that's some healthy distrust getting added to a lot of things. I mean, it's already happening now, into which I follow a couple social media accounts. One's called like facts.org or whatever, facts, sure, which is basically like, oh, hey, there was an image going around of this politician with this, now disgraced individual. And it's like, here's the, it was a doctored image. Here's the real image.
Right.
Or,
exactly.
Yeah. And that's
exactly.
kind of freaky because it's like, well, what if, not that I'm some advanced person, but I think having a healthy curiosity, right? I'm going to be like, okay, before I react to an image, let me find out what's true. And this is in the course of that image being served to me as news, just not an art experience, but as news. And that is a new muscle I think I need to start developing.
That's exactly right, man. And I think that there's two things happening. It's a perfect storm because we have an extraordinarily powerful tool, AI, which makes incredibly convincing imagery relatively easily if you know what you're doing. And we have the perfect dissemination system, which is the phone. And the phone works in multiple ways because it's because the way in which we digest information, it's quick, and also it's small. So,
Right.
you don't have to, like, the image is small. So you're not really paying attention to the details necessarily.
Right. Right.
So with the flaws of AI, you may not see that on a phone size image. So the first book was called Another America, and basically it was this it was an invented history of New York in the 40s and 50s. And so in that book, there are images that are clearly surreal, and there are images that could be real street photography. And then I
Yeah.
worked with this amazing writer called John Kenny, who's a writer for the New Yorker, and he wrote stories that accompany these fictitious images. But then the next project is much nerdier. Do you know who Robert Capa was?
Robert Capa.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I'm unfamiliar.
Okay. No, this is super photo level nerdery. So
Okay.
Robert Capa is probably one of the most famous photojournalists. He most famously took photographs on Omaha Beach on D-Day.
Oh, okay.
So he got off the boat. Everyone's seen these images. They're super blurry pictures of like soldiers in the water.
Yeah.
But the story is that he took 4 rolls of film, sent it back to England, and then they got fucked up in the lab. And so only 11 images from this 4 rolls survived of D-Day.
Wow.
So I thought, I'm going to recreate a lost roll of Capa's film. So because I think that, and so I made all these images, and the images, this is going to sound like a kind of a dickish thing to say, but they're amazing. Like, in terms of like, if you didn't know anything about, if you're just a regular person, you walk in off the street into a gallery, saw these images, they are powerful, emotional images of the Second World War D-Day landing, right? Dead soldiers, emotion, explosions, all the stuff you'd see.
Mm-hmm.
And the point of this work is to say, if I can so convincingly and powerfully and emotionally reinvent the past, just imagine what I can do with the present.
Oof.
So that's the point of that work. It's called We Are at War. And actually, to go a little step further, because I'm crazy, instead of making it as a book, we're making it as a lost artifact. So it's the work will be, you're going to get a box. And in this cardboard box is a newspaper from 1944 with these images printed in it. And then there's
Why are you doing this? This is going to fall into the wrong hands.
Because I think it's really important that people understand how convincingly they can be lied to. Because right now, when we look at AI, it's all like, oh, it's quirky, surreal, like, dancing monkeys, the Pope's in a nightclub, whatever. It's all this kind of shit.
Right.
And we have to understand how powerfully we can be influenced by amazing images that you would never think were AI. I'll send you some in a minute if you like.
Yeah, please. I'd love to.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to, man. Because it's just what I'd like it's going to be exhibited in France in October. And what I would like is for people to walk through the show and then realize at the end that they've been had. Because that will be our experience on a regular basis, I think, going forward. I mean, you see it now.
Yeah.
What with and it seems trite, but it's actually quite malevolent. Was when Trump or someone issued that there was that thing about how Taylor Swift was supporting Trump.
Oh God, yeah.
But that was a really smart idea because she has huge influence. But that's the beginning of the ways in which we're going to be lied to. I mean, I'm so curious to see what happens in November, like whether that stuff's going to ramp up from whoever, the Russians, the Chinese, Trump, who knows what.
Yeah, I mean, and I think there's already things, and not to get all, first off, I'm not adhering to any specific conspiracy theory, but I think there's been different levels of foreign intervention in order to sway political powers, right? Like, I mean, from the U.S. to other countries and other countries towards us in different ways that you can kind of, change someone's opinion based on some sort of everyday thing that they experience, and I will say, like, the thing that gives me hope in some of this is the fact that what you're referring to is, I think, does require a new healthy curiosity, a new healthy suspicion, but it's not anything that hasn't happened before. And I say this with hope, right? Like, in the sense that, like, look, in the 30s, look at freaking Father Tom Coughlin, who was very anti-FDR, and he was just making up a bunch of bullshit.
And a huge anti-Semite as well.
He was not he was not the dude. For the record, folks, you can look him up. He's not the guy. He was like one of the first Rush Limbaughs before Rush. I mean, he was not a dude, not the dude you want, And one of the things he peddled was Senator Huey Long, who was a here's your fun history lesson, who was a big anti-New Deal person. Now, Huey Long was unfortunately assassinated, and people don't know the exact things of what happened. But Tom Coughlin Father Tom starts going on in his little radio show, just spewing all these things about this happened to this, and FDR did it, and all these things that were happening in order to continue, some sort of deep state, right?
He was
Discussion of like all
he
the,
was in he was
yeah,
Infowars.
he
He was
was,
he was the original Infowars. He was the original Alex Jones. For
yeah,
sure, man. I mean, look, no, you're quite right. I mean, the idea of disinformation is not new, and the idea of lies is not new. None that's new. I guess the thing that's new is, like I said, the dissemination, the phone, and
yeah.
the image part of it.
Ugh. And
And then
that's gonna be hard.
and then it'll be video soon. I mean, it's already video, but it'll be really like it's really ramping up. So it's going to be video as well.
What are your thoughts? This is
We'll
somewhat,
be seeing video of like people eating pets, and then they'll be like, see, look, it's real. These guys are eating dogs.
yeah. What are your thoughts? And there's Google has said that they're going to support it, but I don't know if they said they're going to have it built into their cameras yet on Android. But there's basically there'll be this level of metadata that's injected into photos that can show or prove whether an image has been altered.
I'm all
After
for
the
it, man.
output. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just, people talk a lot about, well, how do you, education, how do you fight like the spread of disinformation and all the rest, or AI, things have to be labeled. I just don't know. I mean, I feel like the social media network between, whatever, Pinterest, TikTok,
Hmm.
Instagram, MySpace, Friendster,
Yeah. Yeah. Throw them
yeah,
all in there.
AOL. I feel like I don't know what the solution is. Like, I feel like the way things are, let's just say an image is labeled. Well, you cut and paste it, you post it somewhere else. Suddenly that label's no longer there. The metadata, maybe there are apps that people will make that will strip out the metadata. I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean,
Possible.
it seems to me, I wonder if we go back to like a pre newspaper, well, pre photography method of information exchange. Like, what happened in the 18th century or 17th century? Well, first of all, most people couldn't read, but how do people get information? Like, I guess they just like, well, like, hey,
Word of mouth.
Robespierre just got guillotined. And then they're like, really? I don't know. Did you see it? Well, my cousin saw it. I don't know. How does that work?
So we're all going to employ town criers, as it sounds
Yeah,
like.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Or maybe people, the other thing is maybe people just won't give a shit. Like, maybe the truth won't really matter that much.
I think that's the thing that's probably the most concerning is apathy. That is such an enemy into which, some people are like, oh, I don't even care about the election, or I don't even care about this. Like, I just want it done and over with. And I think that makes a level of sense into which there's fatigue of what you're experiencing. But apathy is that's the real enemy for me. It's just
But
someone be like, whatever.
I think that's the natural state of humanity. Like, really, look, really, what do we all want? All we really want, man, is to, like, sit around at home,
Mm-hmm.
with your family, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband, whatever. Walk the dog, make some money, have some cake every now and then.
Yeah,
You know what
a
I mean?
quiet life with a
Yeah,
few. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I feel like that's really, watch TV. Like, people just like the idea of being kind of a participant in society. I think for most people is not that interesting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
right?
Well, it's hard. I think it's hard. I mean, and you hope that people won't be satisfied with loneliness. And I think the more we can find ways to fix loneliness, but doing it in levels of continued isolation, I think that's a thing that kind of worries me a tiny bit about when people talk about like the metaverse and all these other things. Where I'm like, well, we're creating these inauthentic, I'm air quoting now, authentic relationships with what? And I think what the constant growth of mankind is through community,
Well,
it's
okay,
through
but
the
what I
sharing
would
of
say,
information.
sure, man, but I mean, you could make a very good argument. Well, there's a couple of things. One is, I think, that what's to say those communities aren't valid? Like, if you have, like, for instance, all these,
Okay.
on Instagram, like all the watch nerds I talk to, myself being a watch nerd also, like, I talk to all these people on a regular basis. Is that not some form of community, or is that not like, is that a lesser community than a flesh and blood community? I mean, I guess you could say so, but then on the other hand, like, I look at Lulu and how she has grown up with the idea of virtual being just as real.
Yeah.
So that's just, so for her, I have a comparison to make where she doesn't.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's true. That's very true. I mean, it's like people like someone like me, like some curmudgeon into which I want, a phone call over a text, which I actually
Yeah.
don't, but in my head, I feel like I do. And I think that might just me be me, like, I don't know, shake the fist at the sky or some sort of thing.
You
I
know what
don't
I
know.
love, man? You know what I love is I love how phone calls have become rude now.
Right?
Like if you call someone unexpectedly, it's kind of almost the same as if you broke into their house at 3 a.m. and they woke up and you were just standing over their bed naked.
Yeah.
That's the level of outrage. Like, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I do
You know,
apologize when I call people. Hey, sorry,
like,
I'm calling, but I just
yeah,
wanted
like now
to.
you have to clear. Like, is it okay to call? I mean, you have to clear it. So, I mean, imagine like you didn't have any warning when we were kids. Like the phone would just ring.
It's true. Pre-caller ID, pre all that. You're like, how invasive? How dare
Yeah, I
they
mean,
call during
I
dinner?
mean, yeah, I remember. I mean, I lived in. I mean, that's actually fascinating. I lived in a pre-answering machine era.
Mm-hmm.
Like the phone would ring, and you had to answer it because then it would just keep going.
Yeah.
And like you say, like you wouldn't call during dinner.
No. Well,
Yeah,
a
how
very
dare you?
strict taboo. I remember
Yeah,
my dad would occasionally take the phone off the hook, and
and
my
then
mom
and
would be
then
concerned about emergencies.
yeah, and I was telling Lulu this. Like I would have to call when I wanted to hang out with a friend or a girlfriend. I'd have to call her house. I have
Mm-hmm.
to speak to the parents. Like, can you
Yeah.
imagine? Like, like her boyfriend having to go through me to get to her every time. He'd have to suffer through a litany of like miserable jokes and humiliation.
Yeah. Well, man, thank God for technology. We really jumped over those
they,
hurdles.
yeah, they cut out the middleman, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it's true. Those Shark Tank clowns. Hi, sharks.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, geez, I really brought us down here. Apologize
No,
to all
no, that was no,
listeners
that
for
was it.
this.
It was no. Why, man? I think I find this whole technological thing so interesting.
Is
Like, think about. Okay, think about this. If you wanted to think about, also, I like the idea of thinking about like applying current technology to the past. To the past, for instance, like if you wanted to sex someone in 1985, let's say, you'd have to like take a picture of your nuts. You'd have to
Mhm.
go drop off the film at the drugstore.
Oh
You have
yeah.
to wait a week. You have to pick it up. You have to mail it, and then you wait like 4 or 5 days. Then I mean, it would take like a month.
Yeah, that's I don't know if I could hold out that long.
I mean, can you imagine? But just the idea of it is crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
think about the idea. Like, it'd be almost like I'm gonna just go to some random apartment building, ring a doorbell, and just show and just hand them a picture of my balls. I mean, that's what it is now, right? I mean, you don't know these people. You've never met these people that you're sexting. The whole
Hmm.
idea is crazy. Like the things we've become accustomed to are weird.
Yeah.
Like, like if I had taken a picture in 1982 and I went on every single apartment in the building I lived in, just rang the doorbell. I was like, "What do you think of this? You like this? Do you have any comments on this landscape picture I took?" No, okay. Next, like it's just a weird idea.
Someone's like, "Hey, I like it. Here's a heart sticker." Boop.
Yeah, exactly. The cookie.
Yeah.
The whole thing is super weird.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a tough thing. I mean, I agree, and I think that because the other thing, it sounds like you're also maybe you're hinting at is criticism without being a critic, or the fact that everyone's a critic, in which people can give you feedback on stuff. I mean, this happens perfectly on this podcast all the time, in which I still get most people reach out to me over email, which goes to show you the age of the majority of my audience, and
Sure.
they just will tell me what they think all the time.
Right.
Negatively, sometimes really positively, beautiful stuff. But
I'm actually
yeah.
quite interested in. I'm interested in the negative stuff. Like when you post something, and someone will say, like someone will go, like it's a whatever, it's a watch, and someone will say, "Oh, I always think steel watches are ugly," or something. And I'm always like weirdly surprised by that because I feel like that comment offers no one anything. It gives nothing to no one. I don't even know if that's a proper sentence structure. Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't make me feel good, but
Yeah.
you've just and I can't imagine. Is it possible that when you write that, you think that that's going to be helpful in some way to anyone?
I would love it if that was introduced into social media, or it's like, hey, look, I will pay Instagram engineers who are listening. I will pay you $30 a month to have some sort of filter on my thing, into which whatever they type in, it reads it back to them in their phone voice and says, "Now, do you think you're adding a healthy,
Right. That would be
conversation?"
amazing. That would be an amazing. I would pay. I would pay for that feature.
Yeah.
Like, do you think, is this helping this person? Is this doing any good in the world at all?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because a lot of times too with social media, people will respond to photos of me or whatever, and that I'll share. And one of the things is I'll get comments about people thinking that I'm like extravagantly wealthy. They're like, oh wow, this guy's got a Daytona. He must have, this and this and this.
Sure. And
And
then they're mad about it, right?
then they're mad about it. And the truth is, like, yes, I'm wealthy in the sense that I have shelter, clean water, and that. But like
And a
sometimes
Daytona.
I wince, yeah, and a Daytona. I wince that I want to be like, well, wait, hold on. I need you to sit down for a half hour so I can explain to you how I've slowly, bought and
Right.
sold and snowballed these watches over the course of a decade to be able to afford this type of thing. But I don't have
Sure.
that luxury. And also,
Right.
I shouldn't even care to have that sort of explanation to, Joe Schmo 1932 at, whatever it is.
But I don't
But
even understand why it even matters. Like, look, there are people who have more. I am lucky. I've had an incredibly privileged life. There's no question about it. And I'm incredibly lucky. And way more people who have way less than me. And there are people who have more than me, but I don't even understand why that matters. Like, what's that got to do with anything?
yeah, well, I mean, I think it's unfortunately how people view each other in the status hierarchy of their life.
Right.
This car
I
equals
guess.
this level of happiness. This physical item equals this level of structure within our society. I don't know.
Right. You know what the problem is, though? I guess it's Instagram. I guess it's because Instagram is now a place where we show people what we have.
Yes. Yeah.
In all manner of ways, like what we have emotionally, experientially, physically, materially. Look, I'm in Aruba. Look, I'm pounding 83 beers. You're like, I
Yeah.
mean, it's so tribal in that way. Like it's primal.
Well,
Like this is
the funny thing is the sort of whiplash reaction as to some of the stuff that people really crave now on social media. I don't know if you know, there's an individual who basically he has like, hey, here's my life as a 9 to 5 person, a 9 to 5 mid-level, blue collar individual, and it's like him waking up and it's like, took a shower, I walked my dog.
right.
There's no wow effect. It's the polar opposite of like DJ Khaled. It's
I was
just
gonna. That's interesting.
monotony.
And is it successous?
I
Hugely.
think he has quite the following.
I started
Yeah,
doing an art project like that. You know how there's those like Franklin Mint figurines, it's like a shepherdess with porcelain skin and rosy cheeks. You know what I'm talking about? Like they're the
yeah.
collectible figurines. So so I said I'm going to make collectible figurines of me doing super mundane things. So this is me in a towel having a bowl of cereal. And I was going to have them painted, so I had like the rosy cheeks, the whole thing. I never went past that particular one, but it was be like me on the toilet reading the paper, like just super mundane things and make them like beautifully crafted. Anyway, yeah. Would you like one? I've got a bunch of those.
I would love one, but I would love it because it's you, and I'd be like, hey, that's my friend Phil. I'd keep it at my desk with my little Pokemon figurines and my all the little all my little
I mean, look, they got this. I'm wearing slippers. It's actually pretty. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah, that's you should sell those. Because here's another thing. I think one of the thing that I want to talk about, because we'll talk about some of the watch stuff, is you have this amazing ability to create, and you make stuff. It's good, it's fun, and you sell some of it, but there's a lot that you don't. And I'm curious, is it a fear of sales, or is it I mean, what is it?
Salesophobic?
I don't know.
I have salesophobia.
I mean, because
what do you mean? What do I know? I mean, well, okay. Here's the thing. Here's what I'm realizing now. I'm really good at ideas, and I'm so I'm terrible at. I'm a terrible business person. I'm terrible at like I'm not really very interested in making money, even though I would love to make zillions. And I'm not very good at it. Then what things do you think I should be selling that I'm not selling?
well, I think
Like
selling. I would sell those,
the cereal.
but I think also the. I mean, because you did the Bastardo stuff,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
was incredible logo. I bought one of your hats. I get,
yeah.
I love it, and I mean, because you made this like car community of all those
Yeah.
people. But then, like, is it still popping? Because then it's just
No, it's not. The thing about that, I realized, holy shit, running a clothing brand is super complicated. But actually, funny you should say that, because I've actually I met, an investor is coming on board, a friend of mine and another woman who's remarkable, and we're now about to relaunch. Well, we're working on relaunching Viva Bastardo, because it is sad. It's kind of lovely that it was successful, and I sort of made this miniature cult.
Yeah,
And it's
it's
sad to
great.
let the cult die. So I feel like so we're going to relaunch it. We're in the process of working to relaunch it. So that's that is happening.
Okay, well that's good.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, because I think, I mean, that you've gotten your hands in so many different things, and I mean, definitely, I'm very very inspired by it. Because
Thank
I
you.
mean, for me, I would be like, oh, I don't know, maybe it's not good enough, or maybe I shouldn't do it. And you put it out there, it's great, but then you're not tying it to, oh, well, if I look at my core competencies and what are the pillars of achievement that I have to create that filter through what makes a Phil Toledano product, you just put it out there, and
Well,
I really like it.
thank you for saying that, man. I guess everything that I put out is a Phil Toledano product.
Well, fair.
That's the, you know what I mean? Like whatever I make is me. I just wish I was better. Like I'm amazed at people who can just sort of like set up a business and run it and have it be profitable, and they manage like whatever the accounting and the minutia.
Yeah.
I don't know how people do that.
Well, I mean, they have to usually compromise on quite a few things, whether it's staffing, giving up levels of control, giving up different, I'm sure you've heard the term founder syndrome, right?
No, what is that?
So founder syndrome is usually to explain a level of stubbornness within a founder of a company, and in the sense that in most cases, when a founder creates a product, brand, et cetera, fill in the blank, they have a very strong vision as to what that might be. But a lot of times they may be extremely tied to certain parts of a company that no longer makes financial sense for that
Oh, I see.
individual
Okay.
to,
Sure.
where it's like, why are you the person handling all the customer emails? So I'm making this up.
Right.
It's like, well,
Right.
If you look at your time, what your time's worth, and if your time has been better, so founder syndrome, yeah, but it usually explains stubbornness or an individual who is just like, doesn't want to, change. I don't know. Find
Right.
a new startup and see some stupid thing that they're doing, and chances are you can connect it to the ego of the founder.
Right. Well, that's where I'd hope that thing I was talking about earlier about creative brutality would hopefully work.
Yeah. I mean, you managed to do it with the watch company. It's not just a Phil Toledano watch.
No, I mean, the watch would be, look, without Alfred, my partner in Hong Kong, that would be, it's interesting actually, because we creatively, we are quite equal in the sense that when we talk about ideas, it's very equal in terms of how we go back and forth. But then Alfred really makes, all the decisions in terms of like the details and everything coming together for sure.
I mean, can you explain it? I mean, you've kind of gone through the press rounds of this watch, so I don't want to force you to kind of repeat everything, but like it's pretty impressive because it came out of nowhere. And also I will say, as a person who tends to I don't know, I would say I'm a bit of an elitist with watches, but most people are. You see some of these brands that start out, whether it's like, Johnny and Fred, and it's like, we're two guys who wanted to make a watch, and we were tired of this, and we make our watches with Swiss movements. And I'm like, yeah, but your design is shit. Like, all watches do the same thing. They tell the time,
Right.
but your
Right.
design doesn't evoke emotion, or they lean in on a level of quirkiness that they feel people are going to find is like funny and cute. And it's like, hello, Swatch was invented eons ago. That's the cute quirkiness. And that's $30. So don't
Right.
sell me quirkiness for $5,000, please. And you
Well,
guys made this watch, which is, it's fucking incredible. I mean, it's
thank you,
gone
man.
now.
Honestly.
So,
Well, look, thank you for saying that, man. Well, first of all, most design is shit. Like even when I spent some time in Geneva a month or so ago for watch.
Geneva Watch
Uh,
Days or Watch Week,
yeah,
whatever
yeah,
it was. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I was really amazed at like how almost everything. Here's my catchy phrase is snorology. Zing!
Got him.
That's right up there with the Big Apple and the Windy City.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but it just, I'm amazed at how, like, I feel like there's this thing which I call it's 70% design. Like they get 70% there, and then you
Mhm.
just fall on their faces because, for typefaces, they use like a Windows 95 drop down menu and chose Arial
Oof.
or something. You know what I mean? Like the typography shit, or I don't know, man. I just find it shocking how little originality there is. And look, I know that people look at the watch that Alfred and I made and say, oh, it looks like a Midas and all this stuff. And there's certainly inspiration, but it's a different thing. And I'm just amazed how, like you say, like how many brands will be like, yeah, we're going to do a watch brand, and it's going to be inspired by vintage 60s chronograph.
Blech.
And I think, okay, there's only like 50 brands out there that do the same thing. Why would you start a brand where you're not trying to. I actually, this is what I feel, man. I think this is like a core Mr. T belief that
Okay.
that when you being given the opportunity to make something is a gift and it's a privilege, and you shouldn't fuck it up by making something that sounds like everything else. When you are given the chance to make something, you better really try as hard as you can to try and say something new. You better try and say and just push the envelope 2 millimeters further. Just add one more syllable, one more word to the language. That's your job. If you don't do that, then what's the point in making stuff? Then you're just making shit that's going to be thrown away.
Wow. Bars. That's
So
true. I agree.
and I really believe that. So when we made our watch, it was really important for us to try and make something that was a little bit new.
Yeah. Well, but I think it was also informed by design language that people really respect and liked, but it didn't lean on that so much that became the identity.
That's right.
I think that's a
Although,
really tough line to walk.
no, you're quite right, man. Also, bear in mind that when we started working on it 4 years ago, the watch landscape was really different. Like no one was really wearing Midas. Piaget wasn't having a moment. Like
True.
integrated bracelet. Like it was all like steel sports Rolexes. We were kind of crazy.
Yeah.
When I look back on it, I mean, it was actually exactly like being 25 and going, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing.
We've
We had
come
no
full circle.
idea. Yeah, exactly. I think actually that's the key to life is to just blunder ahead.
Well, that's fair.
That's going to be my new logo, blunder ahead.
Yeah, the new geezer, yeah, logo. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, first off, a lot of the love of watches like the geezer watches,
Right.
it's kind of your fault. So you and Mike specifically helped create this love of just like loud watches that are head scratchers that don't really fit, but also fit really well when you wear it with like say a jumpsuit or something.
For
If
instance.
you're wearing a gold watch covered in diamonds and you have a jumpsuit and $30 shoes on or whatever, it tends to fit much better than a $30,000 suit that no one cares about.
Right.
I
For
think that
sure.
it's that juxtaposition that you guys did, but with people loving those watches and everyone loving protocols and Piaget's and
My die.
yeah, and Reflet or whatever the Boucheron ones, like
Sure.
that's all you guys kind of helped usher in this new landscape here.
Well, well, I mean, look, I got really obsessed 5 or 6 years ago with like the 70s and kind of how amazing. It's interesting because liking things is habitual. Everything in life is habits, like I said earlier. Everything is bloody habits, right? And aesthetics are also habits.
Hmm.
So the more you see, so the more you see things, the more your brain says you gets used to them, and the more you just like them, right? So everyone sees Rolex subs, and everyone likes Rolex subs. But now everyone's beginning to see new things. So everyone's brains, their habits are being retrained, right? They're being retrained to like think. Because when I started looking at the 70s stuff for a long time, I was like, oh, it's too much. It's, how can you pull it off? And then after a while, as I kept looking at it, I began to sort of see them contextually. Because I think the part of the problem is when we saw that stuff decontextually. In the 70s, no one looked at that stuff and thought it was too much. Everyone thought it was normal.
Yeah, it's true.
Right. And now we just think it's abnormal because we're in the 2024. So I started when I became friends with Mike, because I would call everyone geezer, then he started calling, and I was always wearing these watches. They were, became geezer watches.
Yeah.
But I will say, man, it is very, it's so invigorating to see people appreciate expanding beyond this for what was for years just always just 60s chronos, 60s divers, 70s, whatever, like just divers and chronographs in the 60s and whatever. That was all it was for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think to like watches is this level of like snobbery that has to be a part of you. And I'm especially with, I think it's why there's such a strong overlap between people that like watches and cars or watches and music or this sort of thing is like it's this level of like strong opinions loosely held. And I think I mean, I love Rolex, I love Patek, I love all that other stuff. But, liking things that are like head scratchers. And I think also there's this thing that like people, I mean, I have no problem talking about, but people don't want to talk about where it's like, I want to communicate this level of status, unconsciously with what I'm wearing. And I want it to be so weird. You're going to have a double take, and you asking me the question, I have the answer to. Like you're going to ask me why I'm wearing a weird, like, Beta 21 watch. And then I get to tell you about,
Look,
Pateks.
I
Yeah.
mean, look, you're absolutely right. It's a very refined form of snobbery because the stuff I like to collect, I don't, first of all, I'm such a snob. I don't want to collect things other people are collecting.
Yeah.
Right? Because I feel like, well, then I'm just like them and I don't want to be like other people. I want to be my own person. I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like collecting should be a reflection of you, not of other people. But I
Hmm.
think people confound that. I think people confound collecting to be as a reflection of everyone else.
Yeah.
But then, as you said, there's nothing that makes me happier than someone going, "What the fuck is that?" And I'd be like, "Oh, actually, as it turns out," and then I go on some like nerd blatherathon,
Yeah.
and I'm really delighted to explain. I'm so happy they've taken an interest, and I can explain it.
Yeah.
And then my greatest joy, man, is evangelizing.
Oh,
Like I
okay.
love.
The
There's
preacher
nothing that
in you
makes me
comes out here with
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah. I get,
watches.
yeah. Jesus said to me,
Yeah.
there is nothing I like better, man, than someone saying, what is that thing? And then they think it's weird, and I take it off and I give it to them, and they put it on their wrist, and like, oh, the strap's so silky. Oh, actually, it's kind of cool. And then you see the conversion, the baptism happen. And that is such a joy, man, because to be able to convert someone, to be able to show someone, open a window to a vista they had not previously considered and have them look
Yeah.
at that vista and go, wow, that's beautiful, is amazing, I think.
No, I agree. I think that's what makes especially watch collecting so much fun is that sort of thing. And also I think there's finding, uncharted territory at all times. I mean when you look at everyone loving I don't know, Breguet out of nowhere, which I get like
Sure.
people were trying to make connections to Daniel Roth and all this other stuff. But it's the same way when someone would get into subs 10 years ago and they'd be like, oh, yeah, I remember when, dealers they would fall on the floor and the dealer wouldn't even bother picking them up,
That
and
was
like,
about Daytonas. That was
yeah,
about Daytonas.
yeah, right.
I heard that story too. Did you hear that about subs or Daytonas?
I don't know. It was
I,
about like, vintage air quote Rolex. So like,
right,
so
right.
5513s and yeah,
Sure.
whatever,
Yeah,
6263s or whatever that would happen. And
yeah.
now people are like, yeah. In my head, I'm like, dude, I remember when a Breguet would be like $2,000 for gold.
That's right. Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, all the 70s stuff. I mean, Piaget was just peanuts for years.
Yeah, and then what's great is I think in a lot of ways, watch companies, and this is my hot take, they will purposely make the bad decision because that way that bad decision becomes a collector's thing later. Like I firmly believe that the code 1159, like and
Oh, this is audacious.
no, so I want to say this because I love Paul Lerner. I love everyone at AP. And I think Francois it was a genius move. And when I bet half of the company, maybe I'm wrong. This is pure speculation. Half of the company saw the code 1159 was like, what the fuck is this? And the other half was like, okay, I'm halfway there. And he's like, oh, it's ready because you're going to release something that's
Man,
so
okay.
divisive that it will then become a collector's item.
Speaking of the drop down menu from Windows 95, that typography is the worst.
It's
Actually,
right.
speaking of AP, you know what's funny? When our watch came out, and then 2 weeks later, AP comes out with the remaster, whatever it is, of this watch that actually I've been obsessed with for years. And then what was what was genius was people like, oh, I can't believe AP copied you. Like they're over there, they're checking Mr. Enthusiast Instagram, like, holy shit, we got to crank out a watch in 2 weeks, guys. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it was so ridiculous.
It's well, and it also goes to show like this is a great thing that happens with things like social media, right? Into which these people are able to see what you just made and they can respond to it. And, and in a lot of ways, you kind of help usher in this new stone dial love movement. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
it's
I mean,
great.
yeah, but it is great, man. It is great. It was just ridiculous that people thought that AP just turned around and like cranked out a watch 2 weeks after seeing a
Yeah.
watch. Like I mean, that watch, I wish they had made that at a non-Gulliverian size.
Well, and that's the thing too, right? Is like, is that going to be the thing as we all move towards small watches where one person's going to come in and going to be like, you guys are fucking amateurs. I'm wearing 47 millimeter for life. And all of a sudden everyone loves Panerai again. I don't
Right.
know.
No, I think it's going to go the other way first. People, he's going to say, you guys are fucking amateurs. Look at this 22 mil I'm rocking right now.
Yeah. I mean, but I think like
I mean, no,
that
I
is
mean,
the fun thing with watches.
I mean, funnily enough, like for our watch, a lot of people moan about our movement. But the problem with our watch is that we couldn't find it takes a 17 mil movement, and there are almost no movements that small because the watch companies have spent decades building fucking like 45 mil suit plates.
Yeah.
And so there are no tiny movements really.
Yeah.
Or very few, let's say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, because now I'm sure everyone's like, oh, should have made it smaller. And it's like, yeah, but like, what am I going to sell you in 4 years? I think that's the smart thing too, is like you tick every box. I mean this.
Right. I would be amazed, man, if code 59, 1159, whatever it is, I would eat my hat if that becomes something.
I think that the trick is it'll be people like you, Eric Koo, Mike, a few other kind of like tastemakers in the industry. And once you guys start wearing it unironically, and it'll be because of the same reason why you're wearing some of the watches that you're wearing now, is it's like,
You're not wrong.
You can get a Code 1159 for like 40% less than retail because A, B, C, D, whatever, right? And so someone's wearing it, and then someone's like, "Yeah, man, you know what? I saw Phil Toledano wearing it in a Code." You're like, "Oh, wait, really?"
And then suddenly, man, you give me way too much credit. You give me way too much credit. Although I will say that I have seen every now and then I see a Code 59 dial. I'm like, okay, that is less heinous than the original ones.
Yeah.
So who knows?
But I feel like if you're a watch CEO, you can't actually make the air quote right decision. You have to like, do something that's divisive.
Like Bremont.
Oh my God. Well, Bremont, there's no way you could have argued that was going to be a right decision 20 years from now anyway.
I think that they sort of Brexited themselves.
Yeah.
Like there was the same way that England kind of just shot itself in the balls by choosing Brexit. Bremont just kind of did the same sort of thing. Like they just kind of shot themselves in the nuts with a variety of decisions.
Yeah. For folks who don't know, Bremont well, I guess was, but still is, but it was a primarily like British watchmaking made in Britain. We're doing watches Britain way, Great Britain, like, make Great Britain watches great, whatever it was. And all it did is just kind of pave the way for people to discover like actual British watch brands like Fears and stuff. And then, I don't know, money is pretty cool because I guess people took money and whatever reasons why, and now they have this total new brand that many people choose to not like.
And then they're not made, and I think they're not made in England anymore, right?
That's the biggest thing is the core sales principle of the brand. They now have to create a new one because it was about being a UK brand and made in the UK, and it's not.
It's a bit problematic when you abandon your core principle entirely.
I think that's going to present some issues, to say the least. I don't know. I don't take any money from Bremont or anything. I like the people there. I'll say that. I do.
I take a lot of money from Bremont, man.
I love the people there, and I'm sure that they're going to make something great. And I wish them luck. But yeah, the current iteration is just kind of a bummer. But if you're a watch person, you gotta hate it. You gotta fucking hate it. And I'm like, geez, Louise.
I am amazed at the level, like the endless rage reservoirs that watch people have at their disposal. Like there's just an endless spigot of watch rage, horological rage. Do you know what I mean? About everything.
Yeah, I have felt it.
And I feel like it's kind of crazy though. It's weird.
Well, I mean, I think, what do you do with all the rage that you experience sitting at your desk, making money or whatever it is? I mean, people that tend to like watches tend to be a level of affluence, whether they realize it or not. And so there's some pins up rage. It's like Johnny didn't take his bath. This watch sucks.
It should be the opposite, though. You should be like, holy shit, I have enough money to buy watches. What am I mad about?
Oh, yeah, I agree.
No,
I think
I got it all wrong.
No, you've reached nirvana, into which you realize that does not satisfy you because there's always another watch. I have a bunch of watches underneath my desk in my little, fake safe, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And in my head, I'm like, you know what'd be really good? I saw this watch the other day. It might be kind of nice to get. I don't really have that. I think it fits my collection. Like when I die, someone's going to come view the Jeremy Kirkland collection. It's just like broken crayons and a Pokemon.
There's going to be a Phillip's auction of the Jeremy Kirkland collection.
Yeah. It's going to be
mythological horological timepieces.
Right. You've seen on TikTok.
I've seen. That's right.
Yeah. So, but that's fine. I'm okay with it. I recognize that I'm probably not a collector, but I am a person, to tie this all back full circle, who's learned a lot about myself by trying to collect. So,
right.
There we go. I got my camera that's really nice that I never shoot,
Is it a Leica?
No, I did get a Leica
I'm
on
glad.
loan
I'm glad.
from
Okay.
Leica,
Yeah.
and I got Leica pilled, and I was like, dude, I got to do this. And then a friend of mine was like, just go buy a Q2, and this is with the Q3 being out. And I was like, yeah,
Right.
but even then, it's like $4,000, and that's a lot of money for me. It's a lot of money, period. And
Yeah.
I'm still am not going to use it. So I bought a Ricoh GR3,
Those are really
which
good.
it's great. And I carry it with me. I think every single time I've seen you or hung out, I have it in my bag, and
Yeah.
it usually stays there. And in fact, it's still there because I don't pull it out to use it. Because I'm just, it's whatever. Like, I got to find a way to use the camera that I own. But I also realize that that's why I shouldn't have a Leica or some whatever. I don't know.
Well, I mean, look, they're lovely cameras, but I guess the internet facilitates fetish. So the Leica is just another fetish, right?
Yeah.
Like you've got to have the Rolex, you have the whatever, you have the sub, the
Yep.
Leica, the Mont Blanc pen, a cigar holder, Japanese whiskey.
Yep.
a,
What
a
else? What else
73
fits in this world?
vintage Porsche,
Oh yeah, air
like
cooled.
air cooled, like a 70s, most likely if you're really in like a brown color,
Hmm.
maybe.
Hmm.
What else is part of this ensemble, man?
Um, a strange connection to Bauhaus, but not being able to mention people who went there.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else.
You like Dieter Rams.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I always love Braun. I always love Braun.
Hmm.
Yeah, amazing
Hmm.
product design. Maybe if you want to go a little off piece, you have like a Bang & Olufsen like CD player from the 80s,
Yep.
wall mounted.
Yeah. But you listen to everything over Bluetooth, so it doesn't even matter.
That's right. That's right, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's and then you're like, "Oh my God, I've reached it. I have completed everything. I have all the things that make me happy." And then you
Yeah.
pull out your phone and you're like, "Fuck, one more."
Well, I need to upgrade.
No, you're just like one more thing,
Oh,
whatever
yeah,
that
yeah.
is.
Yeah, it's true. That too. Yeah, I mean, that's the annoying thing about watches is it's always endless.
What are you after right now?
I don't know. I really like Daniel Roth.
What? You're not supposed
Yeah.
to like him. You're supposed to not like him right now, so then you can like him later.
No, I like him now, man. Like the Daniel Roth post when he had his own brand, the first 5 years. I think those are amazing. I love that he sandwiched this kind of breguet stuff into a very unusual case shape.
Yeah.
Like that sandwich to me is I don't understand why Roth is not crazy and breguet is going crazy, because Roth is breguet but interesting.
Ooh. Agreed. Those are some. So
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the brigades are beautiful, man. I think they're amazing and beautiful. But
yeah.
the case shape just turns up the volume. It just turns up to 11.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I agree. I think Daniel Roth watches are cool, but it's a little bit of a higher entry point.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. They're very expensive. I'm just obsessed over them. That's all.
No, I mean, I think. Do you have any?
I do. Yeah, I have a couple. I have a couple.
And are they going to be for sale after this episode?
Well, the traditional Toledano pump and dump.
Yeah.
Well, I actually want to sell one because I'm trying to buy a really crazy one, but selling is always miserable anyway. Then when you sell a watch, you always wade into the swamp of, let me think about it. Let me ask my wife. I just bought a bunch of watches. Otherwise, I'd totally buy this. I thought they were cheaper when the person has no idea what they cost anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I have that happen. I had one guy, I've been selling a bunch of clothes that I don't really wear anymore or whatever. And I put some stuff up and sold some things. And I put like the details like, hey, this was worn, this was, but it's not like there's stuff with holes in it. It's all legit. And the guy messages me a week after he received a thing that he bought, and he, by the way, this is like pennies on the dollar, right? This wasn't like me taking anyone to the cleaners here. And he messages me back and he's like, hey man, he's like, not really feeling this anymore. Can I do a return? What? And I said, what? I was like, not really feeling it. I was like, I don't care. I was like, you purchased it for like $40. Like, find someone else to feel it then. Like, I don't, but that is a thing with selling stuff. And I told, and so I told him, I was like, hey man, like, sorry, I'm not going to do that. I was like, and honestly, like your excuse is not sorry. No. And it's been a week. Like I'm not a store. You got it, you wore it. And the fact that you're not feeling it anymore is like not my problem. And then he responds.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing.
Yeah. And he responds to me and he says, hey, man, I'm really disappointed to hear this from you. He's like, I've always been a fan of your podcast and stuff. I figured you'd go above and beyond for me. And I responded, I said, I'm so sorry to disappoint you. I was like, I can't I can't go above and beyond. But I responded. I said, or nor can I stoop as low as this because I would not, cater to the whims of a not feeling it anymore person who I'll say it here. He bought a sweatshirt off me for like $60.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, I feel like,
it's ridiculous.
well, it also, there's this, that actually makes me think. I was talking to Nouveau about this yesterday because he's like, because, I guess he'll post a picture of like his stew that he's making. And then someone
Yeah.
will be like, hey, someone make a joke about it. And he was like, why do these people feel like they should be able to make jokes of me? And I said, because when you post things on Instagram or anywhere, there's an implication of proximity of friendship.
Mm.
So everyone,
Yeah. Parasocial
on
relationships.
Instagram, yeah, everyone thinks we all think we're friends with each other because
Yeah.
we see bits of our personal lives. So
Mhm.
because this guy listens to your podcast, he's like, yeah, we're mates now. He's gonna give me the mates rates, and like he'll the leeway. Like I'll wear it for a month or two. I'll wear it to like a bachelor party, and then I'll return it with vomit on, and he'll be okay with it
Yeah.
because we're friends. Because I know about him. Because I've seen his face. I've heard his voice.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
yeah,
it's an illusion of friendship.
and it's and I did say I was like, hey man, I'm so thankful that you like the show and I appreciate it, but yeah,
But you're
can't.
keeping the sweatshirt.
But yeah, I mean, you're on your own, my man, and
I mean, that's pretty amazing, man. I'm not really feeling it. I wore these underpants that I bought off you for a while, but
yeah,
no,
not really feeling it.
Yeah.
I think, and also it wasn't like, I get it if it's a car, and maybe you can say like, hey, there's an issue. I bought a car off you. It's got I'm making this up. It's the door handle broke. Oh my God, that's a horrible thing. We got to fix your door handle, whatever. I'm so sorry. This is a sweatshirt that, I don't know. Maybe that shows how wealthy I must be, in which I'm like, this is $60. Is this really worth your time? But perhaps it was.
Well, you're a millionaire, man. You're a zillionaire over there.
I am.
Fancy $60 sweatshirts.
I know. I am. I am
lording it over the rest of us.
Yeah, it is. It's true. It's like wait till you see my $62 sweatshirt that I'm about to introduce.
That's right, man. Your silk trousers.
Yeah. Well, Phil, this has been great. Thank you so much.
No, honestly, man, it was such a lovely conversation. I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. It was great chatting with you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Bye.
You've been listening to Blamo. Our show is produced by Blamo Media. We're edited by Amar Lowell, and our theme music, as always, by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. If you like what you heard, you know the drill. Share the pod with a friend. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars or thumbs up on whatever other thing you're listening to us on, whether it's Dingledorp or Bing Bong, whatever it's called. But you can also follow us on Instagram for all the hot content. If you want to talk to us and give us your hot take, we'd love to hear from you. You can send us an email at info@blamopod.com. Last but not least, super ultra important, if I had a air horn, I would press it right now. You got to come and join us over on Patreon, because the fun never stops over there. Look, the live show, the free show, whatever you want to call this, we take breaks here and there, but Patreon, it never stops. And we also got exclusive shows like Die Workwear, hosted by Derek Guy and Peter Zotolo, and the Triple J Show, hosted by yours truly with John Moy and Gene DeLeon. There's just a ton of stuff over there. So check it out at patreon.com/Blamo. If not, no worries. We got hundreds and hundreds of free episodes in the feed and more to come. So we will see you all soon.